Chapter 61 Canon Fodder Male Supporting Role in a Strange World 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After rushing back to the Su house, Xuanhuan finally felt a bit of her fear melt away under the living room's bright lights. Relief washed over her. Her parents weren't home, just the two servants. Back in her room, she remembered the ghost's letter still tucked in her pocket. She pulled it out to read. The letter was definitely in Mo Cheng's voice. He owned up to everything, admitting he wasn't human, but a ghost, the Ghost King, no less. He went on, saying he'd lied for so long and hoped she wasn't mad. He knew she had feelings for him and said he liked her too. They'd known each other 1,000 years ago, but fate had played a cruel joke, keeping them apart. They should have been together all this time. He told her to wait for him, that he'd come back when he'd finished taking care of business. Reading the letter, Xuanhuan's head swam. Mo Cheng had straight up confessed his supernatural identity. If she hadn't known he was a ghost, she would have been over the moon at such a confession. Now, she just felt scared and confused. Mo Cheng claimed they met 1,000 years ago. Who did he think she was? Xuanhuan was scared by Mo Cheng's affection, but also disgusted that she was possibly a substitute and that he didn't really like her for herself. She was a mess of emotions, worried that he didn't really care for her and afraid he'd come back. Meanwhile, things were much cheerier on Xuanhuan's side. After he and Zhou Xiyuan got home that night, Gao's parents and Zhou's ancestors were already chatting in the living room. He and Xiyuan just hung back and listened. After a while, Gao's mom ordered dinner, and everyone went to bed happy after the meal. Later, as she was getting ready for bed, the system piped up, "Host, Mo Cheng and Su Xuanhuan have acknowledged their identities." When did that happen? Xuanhuan was surprised. He hadn't been watching them closely but was definitely curious about this. Just now. Since Su Xuanhuan blocked Mo Cheng's contact info a while back, he had a little ghost deliver a letter. Really spooked her. Xuanhuan raised an eyebrow. A minor tweak, and their relationship had taken a weird, irreversible turn. After the delivery ghost reported back, Mo Cheng didn't do anything else. Lately, he'd been absorbing other evil spirits to get stronger. If it hadn't been for the sword, he would have kicked the bucket when those people ambushed him 2 centuries ago. Even with the sword, he'd still been locked away in that dark place for 200 years. This time, he'd found Xuanhuan, and he wasn't going to let history repeat itself. With that thought, Mo Cheng headed to an ancient tomb in the northwest. Inside the solemn tomb, Mo Cheng felt the intense Yin energy and immediately sat down to meditate. The energy swirled around him, eventually seeping into his body and becoming part of him. Time flew by. 2 months later, Mo Cheng opened his eyes, a smug grin spreading across his face. He could feel the surge in his power. Now, unless those people ganged up on him, he was sure they couldn't threaten him again. Mo Cheng was riding high on his power boost, and Xuanhuan had reached the mid-stage of Jindan. In this world, late-stage Jindan was the highest you could reach. His original power was way beyond that, so he didn't have to worry about bottlenecks. He just needed to absorb spiritual energy to level up. With the help of various spiritual stones from his space, Xuanhuan's strength grew fast. The system, always monitoring Mo Cheng, told Xuanhuan that he was stronger and ready to resurface. Xuanhuan just smiled. This was going to be good. Just as Xuanhuan predicted, Mo Cheng's first move was to find Su Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan. Su Xuanhuan jumped, startled to see Mo Cheng suddenly in her house. Mo Cheng, what are you doing here? Didn't I say I'd come to you when I took care of things? I'm not leaving you now. Listening to Mo Cheng's loving words and staring at his half-rotted face, Su Xuanhuan was on the verge of tears. Mo Cheng, I don't think we're right for each other. Humans and ghosts are different. It won't end well. Xuanhuan, how can you say that? I told you, we met 1,000 years ago. You were supposed to be my wife back then. Stop! Xuanhuan shouted, cutting him off. Who do you think I am? I'm just me, the Su Xuanhuan of today, not the woman you knew 1,000 years ago. Mo Cheng, seeing her frantic state, realized that she thought he was seeing her as a substitute. But she was her, both the Xuanhuan of 1,000 years ago and the Xuanhuan of today. Xuanhuan, listen to me. I've always loved you. You're her reincarnation. You're both you. I don't want to hear it, Mo. Just go. Xuanhuan. Just go. I can't look at you right now. Seeing her upset and trembling, Mo knew she needed to calm down. Alright, I'll leave you for now. You need to relax. With that, he vanished. Xuanhuan stared at the empty spot and sighed in relief. What's up with Mo's face? It's horrifying. She didn't know if he was telling the truth, but seeing how serious he was, she figured he probably was, but even if it was true, so what? She was Xuanhuan now, not someone from the past. They were a human and a ghost. Even if they were destined to be together for 1,000 years, it wasn't going to happen. Thankfully, Mo considered her feelings. Otherwise, she wouldn't know what to do. Xuanhuan and the system watched their meeting together. Seeing Xuanhuan's reaction, the system was confused. Host, why is Xuanhuan reacting like this? Because everything's changed. In the original story, Xuanhuan was always in contact with Mo, and their relationship developed naturally. When they learned he was the Ghost King, they'd already confessed their feelings. She'd seen his deep affection for her, and his true identity didn't change anything. Of course, judging by her behavior a while back, Xuanhuan suspected she was more than a little shallow, which was normal. People definitely act differently around a handsome ghost versus a hideous, scary one. Still, knowing Mo's intentions, he wasn't going to let her go that easily. Chapter 62 Canon Fodder Male Supporting Role in a Strange World 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Mo left, a wave of annoyance washed over him as he followed the scent to a tunnel. Inside, the ghost sensed his powerful presence. Those who could hide, did. The rest shuffled out to greet him. Greetings, Lord Ghost King. Mo surveyed the shadowy throng and said in a low voice, Rise. Once they were all standing, Mo spotted the ghost he was looking for. You, come here. The little ghost he'd singled out trembled, inching forward until it floated before Mo. Lord Ghost King, what are your orders? The woman I asked you to watch. Has anything unusual happened these last few months? After sending this little ghost to deliver the letter, Mo had instructed him to stick close to Xuanhuan, monitoring her every move and reporting back. He had spent the last couple of months in an ancient tomb, cultivating, and this little ghost came here. Unusual? The little ghost thought. Where to begin? Reporting, my lord, the woman invited a heavenly master last month, so this one dared not approach too closely. Invited a heavenly master. A flicker of darkness crossed Mo's eyes. Judging by her reaction earlier today, it was probably to protect herself from him. Anything else? She seems to be scared out of her mind every day. The little ghost didn't finish his sentence before Mo abruptly vaporized him, absorbing the dissipated energy into his own body. His eyes now burning with intensity, Mo glanced at the remaining little ghosts, who were paralyzed with fear by his sudden action, then turned and left. No matter what Xuanhuan did, he wasn't giving up on her. He'd finally found her. He was determined to make up for all those lost years. Oblivious to Mo's inner turmoil, Xuanhuan was on edge after rejecting him, constantly wondering if he would return. She had confided in her parents about Mo a while back. Worried about their daughter being haunted by a ghost king, Mr. and Mrs. Su had called in several well-known exorcists. They had hoped to find one who would agree to protect her, but every single one of them turned tail the moment they heard the ghost in question was the Ghost King. They all claimed he was too powerful and advised the Sus to look elsewhere. That was when Xuanhuan truly understood how terrifying Mo was. She thought of Zhou Xiyuan, the heavenly master who used to live across the hall. He didn't seem afraid of Mo, but she hadn't seen him since, after striking out with multiple exorcists, the Su family gave up. Although the exorcists refused to take the case, they did leave her with a few talisman papers. Xuanhuan kept them on her, but they hadn't had any effect on Mo earlier, proving they were useless against him. This thought only added to her anxiety. Xuanhuan prayed daily that Mo would never come back. And, as luck would have it, Mo was in trouble. the Zhou family, along with exorcists from several other prominent families, had been hunting for Mo Cheng, hoping to eliminate him once and for all. That explained why Su's father couldn't find a powerful heavenly master, and why Su Qianqian couldn't get in touch with Zhou Siyuan. The Su family had kept Su Qianqian's entanglement with the Ghost King a secret. The exorcists they invited also kept quiet about it afterward, although Zhou Siyuan and the others were aware of the special connection between Su Qianqian and Mo Cheng. They stopped monitoring her after a few months of fruitless observation. They were too busy with their hunt, unaware that the Su family had even sought out a heavenly master. A few days later, with Shiqing secretly pulling strings, the exorcists tracking Mo Cheng finally cornered him. Outnumbered, Mo Cheng fought them off before fleeing. Shiqing realized that Mo Cheng's powers weren't as strong as he thought, barely half-step Yuanying strength. But, in the original story, he had managed to survive until the end and remain with Su Qianqian for life. That must have been thanks to the power of the plot itself. Now, his arrival had disrupted the original storyline. Those chasing Mo Cheng weren't meeting with any unexpected problems, and Mo Cheng was struggling. Learning that Mo Cheng had been found, the Zhou family joined the hunt themselves. They were gunning for Mo Cheng. On the surface, Shiqing continued going to school as usual, hanging out with Wang Zhiyuan and Li Jiajun. Gao Jiayu was just an ordinary guy, and Shiqing didn't plan to reveal his identity as a cultivator. It would only cause trouble. He kept tabs on the situation. Mo Cheng was on the run, desperately seeking a place to hide. Then, one day, he snatched Su Qianqian. Shiqing heard about it immediately. After all, the system was monitoring the two of them around the clock. When the system alerted him, Shiqing was in class, so he didn't intervene. Honestly, he didn't want to. The two of them were the leads in the original story, their relationship destined to cross millennia. Even though Mo Cheng was volatile and had killed people after turning into a ghost, Su Qianqian and Mo Cheng would never truly be in danger when they were together. Su Qianqian was abducted from school. Mo Cheng appeared out of nowhere, grabbed her, and vanished without a word. He carried her to some faraway place in the blink of an eye. Staring at the unfamiliar surroundings, Su Qianqian stammered, Mo Cheng, where are we? This is Y City, Qianqian. You'll be staying here for a while. I just left like this, without telling my parents. They'll be worried. Seeing Mo Cheng's bloodshot eyes and the decaying flesh on his face, Su Qianqian summoned her courage and said, It's okay. I'll send someone to let them know. Don't worry. Okay. Trapped, Su Qianqian could only temporarily compromise, as Mo Cheng didn't seem like he wanted to hurt her. Noticing that Su Qianqian wasn't fighting him, Mo Cheng's expression softened, morphing back into the Mo Cheng she knew. Blissfully unaware that he had exposed his true self, he gently soothed her, Qianqian, I love you. I would never hurt you. Okay, I believe you. Su Qianqian knew Mo Cheng wouldn't physically hurt her. But the terror? It was killing her, and so, Su Qianqian found herself living under Mo Cheng's watchful eye in an abandoned house. Ironically, this was the same place she and Gao Jiayu had planned to explore before. Living under Mo Cheng's gaze, which shifted between tender and fierce, Su Qianqian felt nothing but dread. The news of Su Qianqian's abduction was eventually leaked by Shiqing. Mr. and Mrs. Su were devastated. After making some inquiries, they finally tracked down Zhou Siyuan and the others. Master, you have to save our Qianqian. Mrs. Su pleaded with the Zhou family elder. The Zhou family, caught off guard by Mo Cheng's kidnapping, could only offer reassurance. Don't worry, Madam Su, we will do everything we can. Knowing Mo Cheng's approximate location, they rallied over a dozen heavenly masters and set off for Y City. Chapter 63 Canon Fodder Male Supporting Role in a Strange World 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qianqian, what's with all the wandering? Su Qianqian, carefully looking around, jumped at Mo Cheng's voice. She located him standing there, looking absolutely terrifying. Forcing a smile, she managed something worse than a sob. I just wanted to check out the view. I've got a barrier up. You can't get out. Come on, let's go back inside, Mo Cheng said, his tone sickeningly gentle. Okay, Xuanhuan mumbled, trudging back like a zombie. It had been half a month. Just her and Mo-Cheng, hold up. He brought back food from somewhere, but she hadn't seen another soul. Every day, Xuanhuan plotted her escape from the weird and terrifying Mo-Cheng. She was done with him. She tried to bolt daily, only to be caught red-handed and dragged back in shame. Days bled into weeks. She was obsessed with escaping this place, escaping this psycho. Her feelings for him had soured completely, but Mo-Cheng always wore this mask of affection, showering her with attention while refusing to let her leave. Then one day, Xuanhuan noticed something was off with Mo-Cheng. He seemed manic, and his decaying face betrayed a foul mood that shattered his usual gentle facade. Something's definitely up. Xuanhuan thought. Sure enough, a few days later, people arrived. A whole crowd of them. Finally, someone was here. Her numb face cracked into the first smile she'd managed in weeks. If people were getting in, maybe she could get out. Could she finally leave this place and this pervert behind? As soon as the newcomers arrived, they started battling Mo-Cheng. Xuanhuan stood to the side, watching. Then, in the crowd, Xuanhuan spotted Xuanhuan, her old next-door neighbor. She knew then that she was saved. Mo-Cheng was fighting a dozen or so exorcists. He was outnumbered and steadily losing ground under their combined assault. Without hesitation, he summoned a sword. A thick, bloody aura swirled around him, solidifying into a blade. Mo-Cheng gripped the hilt. Instantly, everyone felt the chilling presence. Xuanhuan immediately raised a demon-warding mirror. The fight was about to reach fever pitch. Go to hell. All of you. Mo-Cheng screamed, charging toward them with the sword. Formation, now. An old man shouted. Several people moved, quickly setting up some kind of protective circle. Mo-Cheng, warped by the weapon's influence, was consumed by a lust for killing. His eyes burned red as he stormed into the formation, engaging the exorcists. The murder weapon was a game-changer. Mo-Cheng, wielding it, held his own against a dozen skilled exorcists. These exorcists, with their foundations and golden cores, found themselves outmatched by Mo-Cheng's berserker rage and the power of the sword. Xuanhuan watched from the sidelines, seeing the red-eyed, black-aura-wreathed Mo-Cheng for the monster he truly was. She realized the extent of his control, his tolerance. Toward her, hidden nearby, Xuanhuan watched the stalemate. He knew that if this went on, these people wouldn't be able to subdue Mo-Cheng. It was time to step in, so, Xuanhuan and the others encountered the cultivator who'd saved them before. Just like last time, he seemed to move with impossible speed, and unlike last time, his cultivation had reached the golden elixir stage. Xuanhuan stood before Mo-Cheng, taking in the yin qi and bloody malice surrounding him. His expression was severe, and he immediately attacked. His attacks were fast and powerful, and Mo-Cheng was quickly overwhelmed. The others stared, stunned. Wasn't this the golden elixir stage? They knew other Jindan cultivators, but this was different. Not only was it different from theirs, it was unlike anything they'd ever known about the Jindan stage. Xuanhuan ignored their thoughts, taking Mo-Cheng down in a few moves. Mo-Cheng lay on the ground, his yin qi dissipating, his soul no longer as robust as before. Xuanhuan snatched the sword from his grip. He felt its cold, piercing energy, the faint wails that seemed to emanate from it. Xuanhuan quickly understood the sword's nature. It contained the souls of hundreds who had fallen by its edge. This meant the weapon couldn't simply be destroyed. The trapped souls needed to be freed. Xuanhuan tossed the sword to one of the exorcists. Better for them to deal with this kind of thing. The Zhou family patriarch caught the sword and instantly understood its power. His face darkened. The others were curious, but they held their tongues. May I ask what sect or family you're from, friend? We owe you a debt for subduing the Ghost King, a Jindan cultivator asked. No sect. No family. Xuanhuan didn't want to linger. He always traveled in disguise to avoid trouble. He sealed the fallen Mo-Cheng with a talisman and left. The exorcists watched him leave as quickly as he had arrived, deciding it was best not to pry, until one of the exorcists asked, "What should we do?" He took the Ghost King. What if he lets him loose again? All our efforts for nothing. Yeah, we should have stopped him, another echoed. We should have just killed the Ghost King while he was weak, someone added. The Zhou family patriarch listened to their rising excitement and cut in. Enough. Someone with that kind of power could have dealt with the Ghost King in 2 or 3 moves. I don't hear anyone volunteering to stop him now. The loudmouths fell silent. Who would have dared to stand in his way? They came to handle the Ghost King. If something went wrong, at least they would have died for a just cause, but getting beat down for getting on that guy's bad side? No way. After everyone calmed down, they noticed Su Qianqian huddled nearby, trembling. Miss Su, are you alright? Zhou Siyuan asked, stepping forward. Su Qianqian finally broke down when she saw familiar faces. I want to go home. Please, take me home. Okay, we'll take you home, Zhou Siyuan promised. He didn't know how to comfort her, so he just offered her a way out. The other exorcists checked the area but found nothing. Finally, the group led Su Qianqian back to their hotel in town. Chapter 64 Canon Fodder Male Supporting Role in a Strange World 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After getting out of there, Shirqing went to a secluded spot and released Mo Cheng from the talisman paper. Who are you? Mo Cheng asked, his eyes filled with fear as he looked at the figure before him. The last time he'd seen this guy, he was just in the foundation building stage. Now, he'd formed a golden elixir in no time and was incredibly powerful. How'd he pull that off? Shirqing didn't answer. Instead, he dropped his disguise, revealing his true face. Gao Jiayu. Mo Cheng was stunned. It was Qianqian's friend, Gao Jiayu. But wasn't he just a regular guy? It's me, Shirqing said calmly. Mo Cheng was bewildered. How are you a cultivator? That's my business, and none of yours. Mo Cheng fell silent. None of his? He was already at this guy's mercy. How could it not be his business? But seeing Gao Jiayu's cold expression, he knew exactly where he stood. He was at the mercy of Shirqing. I know you're Qianqian's friend, Mo Cheng stammered. I don't have a problem with you. I'm the guy Qianqian likes, well, the ghost she likes. You can't kill me. Oh, really? No problem. Weren't you the one who tried to scare me that time, and the one who unleashed your evil energy on us? Mo Cheng looked a little guilty, but he still protested, but you were fine. And why are you and Qianqian so close? She should only be mine. His eyes gleamed with obsession. Shirqing's indifference seemed to snap him back to reality. You can't kill me, he threatened. If Qianqian finds out, she'll never forgive you. Shirqing smirked. I doubt that. Even if Su Qianqian somehow found out he'd killed Mo Cheng, so what? Besides, Su Qianqian probably wanted Mo Cheng gone. Seeing that he was unmoved, panic finally set in for Mo Cheng. Gao Jiayu was going to kill him right here. His biggest weapon had been taken from him, and now he was seriously injured and defenseless. This could really be the end. Shirqing saw the despair in Mo Cheng's eyes and decided to cut the conversation. He'd been planning to end him quickly, but seeing the heavy karma clinging to him, he changed his mind. Letting Mo Cheng disappear so easily seemed too good for him. Shirqing thought for a moment, then pulled a magical artifact from his space and stuffed Mo Cheng inside. He'd gotten the artifact by chance back in his original world and never thought it would come in handy. Inside, Mo Cheng's yin qi and ghost qi would slowly be purified until his soul ceased to exist. A few days later, Su Qianqian finally returned to City A month after leaving. Qianqian. Su Qianqian spotted her mom and dad as soon as she walked out of the airport. They saw her, too. Seeing her daughter looking so worn down, Su's mother rushed forward and embraced her. Qianqian, my Qianqian, you're finally home. Mom. Su Qianqian cried, feeling a wave of emotions wash over her as she hugged her mother. Amid the airport crowds, Su Qianqian and her mother held each other and wept, while Su's father stood to the side, quietly wiping his eyes. Zhou Siyuan and the other heavenly masters saw the scene and quietly slipped away. They'd just given Xuanhuan a ride back and didn't want to intrude on their family reunion. After leaving the airport, the Zhou family ancestors and Zhou Xiyuan returned to the Gao family's residence. That evening, the Zhou family ancestors told their hosts that they'd be leaving the next day. "Uncle Zhou, why the rush? Can't you stay a few more days?" Gao Mu asked, surprised. "Our mission here is done. We have things to take care of back home, so we can't stay any longer." "All right." Gao Mu knew they were heavenly masters, and it seemed they had come to City A for a specific purpose. Now that it was completed, it was time for them to go back. "Well, next time Xiyuan's in City A, you have to come over for a visit." "Okay, Auntie," Zhou Xiyuan replied. The Zhou family ancestors and Zhou Xiyuan left the following day. They'd come with a mission. Now that Maching had been taken by someone unknown, they had to go back and discuss the situation with their peers. They were uneasy about the siege and killing of the Ghost King. Everyone was a little scared of the unidentified man who'd taken the Ghost King. They didn't know who he was or what he was planning to do with him. The Zhou family ancestors and grandson had been watching to see if that person would reappear and who he was. What they didn't know was that the unidentified person was Shiqing, whom they saw every day. Shiqing knew how they'd react after he took Mo Cheng, but since Mo Cheng was the Ghost King, he had to deal with it personally to avoid any complications. He'd made his move when they were losing to let them know that Mo Cheng had been captured, so they wouldn't waste time searching for him. Gao Mu had arranged for Shiqing to drive the Zhou family grandfather and grandson to the airport. After they arrived, he watched them leave before heading back. After returning from Y City, Xuanhuan had grown increasingly weak and mentally unstable. Now, she stayed home most of the time and was afraid to go out. She'd been with Mo Cheng for too long. Her constant attempts to escape had angered him, and he'd kept releasing yin qi, which had entered her body and harmed her. Meanwhile, Mo Cheng was experiencing the pain and terror of his soul slowly disintegrating inside the magical artifact. Ever since Gao Jiayu had thrown him into the artifact, he'd been suffering from the scorching flames that burned his soul. He was in constant agony, but he could do nothing. He knew that if this kept up, he might slowly lose his mind, but he was helpless. After the Zhou family grandsons and the other heavenly masters left, things seemed to return to normal. Shiqing often went out with Wang Zhiyuan and Li Jiajun, living a very comfortable life. Shiqing had always been curious about how the original owner had returned to the Gao family ancestral hall after his death. He'd gone inside to investigate several times, but he couldn't find anything strange. He'd had no choice but to give up. Then, while he was worshipping his ancestors, he noticed that one of the small objects was glowing with a faint aura. After the ceremony, Shiqing casually asked Gao Fu what it was. "You mean that? That was your grandfather's favorite jade ring. He lost it before he passed away. I found it while I was cleaning up the study the other day, so I brought it here." Speaking of this, Father Gao recalled the past and sighed. "Jiayu, do you remember? When you were a kid, you used to cling to your grandfather and always tried to grab his jade thumb ring." Hearing this, Shiqing carefully scanned the jade ring with his spiritual sense and found something unusual. The reason Mo Cheng hadn't beaten the original owner to death that time was probably because of this jade ring. He didn't touch it. If the Gao family needed it, let it protect them. Shiqing had been in this world for decades, and his parents were very understanding and didn't pressure him about getting married or having kids. Shiqing saw them pass away 50 years later, and then, after several more decades, he left this world. Chapter 65, The Canon Fodder Ex-Boyfriend of the Reborn Heroine in the Entertainment Industry 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bro, I always knew you were the best. Shiqing snapped awake to find a woman charging toward him. He flinched back instinctively. Cut. What's going on? Su Yang, why are you pulling away? A guy's voice dripped with annoyance. Your character is supposed to be totally devoted to his sister. Alright, 5-minute break, then we're doing it again. Shiqing looked at the speaker. Standard modern clothes, short sleeves, long pants. But the woman who'd rushed at him wore ancient robes. He glanced down at himself. He was in a costume too. His gaze swept the set. Lots of equipment, lots of people. Most wore work ID badges around their necks. Shurqing spotted one that read film crew. Was this a movie shoot? Confirmed, host, you're filming. The system chimed in, Shurqing hummed. He'd watched plenty of TV shows, but never thought he'd wind up an actor. Su Yang must be the original owner of this body. Looks like he already messed up. Shurqing apologized to the director, okay. People milled around, chatting in small groups. Shurqing moved to the side and said to the system, send me the world plot and the original owner's memories. Affirmative, host. After the download, Shurqing glanced at the woman from the scene. She was taking a break, and when she saw him looking, she gave him a friendly smile. Shurqing nodded back, then looked away. This was another world based on a novel. According to the system, almost all the worlds he'd be traveling to would be like that, because the plots always revolve around the main character, leaving behind supporting characters with tragic stories and unresolved feelings. The plot here was a rebirth story set in the entertainment industry. The heroine, Lin Luoxue, had been a sweet, talented but unknown actress in her previous life. Her lifelong dream had been to become a famous actress, so she went to film school, but despite her hard work, the cutthroat entertainment industry swallowed her up. She had no connections and never caught a break. Meanwhile, her old classmate, the ridiculously beautiful and successful school beauty, and her ex-boyfriend had both become A-listers. They had family connections and real talent, and were thriving. Eventually, they became Best Actor and Best Actress, and when they announced they were together, everyone celebrated. The news hit Lin Luoxue hard. She stared at the dazzling, celebrated couple, then at herself, overlooked and invisible. It didn't seem fair. She wasn't ugly, and she wasn't a bad actress, so why hadn't anyone noticed her? She felt like her talent was wasted. Then, during an on-location shoot, there was an accident. Lin Luoxue was struck by a piece of equipment and died after they couldn't save her. Lin Luoxue died with a burning sense of injustice. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself back in time. She was a sophomore again. As a reborn person, Lin Luoxue knew all sorts of things that were going to happen, which dramas would be hits, which songs would blow up, which directors were struggling now but would become award winners later. Knowing the future gave her a huge advantage, basically turning her life into a video game with cheat codes. From then on, she began her ascent in the entertainment industry. She jumped on opportunities before anyone else. That minor role that nobody wanted? She took it, knowing it would launch her career. That low-budget web series by an unknown director? She signed up, knowing it would become a dark horse hit. That variety show that nobody cared about? She schemed her way into becoming a regular. That song that hadn't even been written yet, the one that would become a classic. She'd write it. Those scripts that would be critically acclaimed. She'd be the one to write them. In short, Lin Luoxue used her future knowledge to become a power player in the entertainment world. Shurqing was stunned. He couldn't help but ask the system, does she have some kind of photographic memory? That if her memory was so good, why had she failed in her first life? That. I'm not sure either, host. The system sounded a little flustered. Whatever. Shurqing continued absorbing the plot. Lin Luoxue's second life was the complete opposite of her first. She soared to the top without a single setback, and as she rose to stardom, she attracted admirers like bees to honey. For incredible men appeared in her life, a stoic A-list actor, a fresh-faced boy band member, a devoted singer-songwriter, and a powerful CEO, and every single one of them fell for her. Lin Luoxue couldn't choose, and was torn between them. Eventually, after being courted by all of them, she chose the CEO, her own boss. They married just months after she won Best Actress, making Lin Luoxue a trophy wife and catapulting her into a whole new social class. And Shurqing's original owner, Su Yang. His role in all this was tragically small. He was Lin Luoxue's ex-boyfriend. Su Yang was a year ahead of Lin Luoxue in college. They met at a party when he was a sophomore and she was a freshman. They ran into each other several times, started hanging out, and eventually fell in love. Su Yang came from a good family, was handsome and talented, and steadily rose to fame, gaining recognition and popularity. Lin Luoxue, however, remained stuck in place, because of their busy filming schedules. They rarely saw each other. Lin Luoxue grew insecure, constantly second-guessing their relationship and starting fights. Eventually, Yang couldn't take it anymore and broke up with her. The breakup wasn't amicable, and Lin Luoxue leaked the story to the media, painting Yang as the bad guy. Fortunately, Yang was an actor who focused on his work, and the scandal didn't hurt his career too much. He continued to land good roles and gradually climbed to the top, becoming an award-winning actor. Along the way, he met Tang Yun, the school beauty, and they developed feelings for each other, eventually becoming a couple. Of course, that was Su Yang's life before Lin Luoxue was reborn. After she came back, everything changed. Remembering Su Yang's success in her past life and her own failure, the first thing she did was dump him. She also spread rumors that he had cheated, was a jerk, and was abusive, acting like the victim. Without any clear evidence, Su Yang's reputation tanked. Chapter 66, The Cannon Fodder Ex-Boyfriend of the Reborn Heroine in the Entertainment Industry 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The scandal tore through campus like wildfire. It trashed his reputation. For someone trying to make it as an actor, it was a career killer. Nothing spreads faster than rumors of domestic violence and cheating. People eat that stuff up. Some folks just shrug it off, hear it, forget it, don't give a damn, but most people are the opposite. They don't bother checking the facts. They just pass it on as juicy gossip. He was blindsided by it all. It was a total lie. He later found out from friends it started with Lin Luoxue's roommates, who claimed she told them. He couldn't believe it. They'd been dating for 6 months and things seemed solid. College love, right? Pure and simple. Dates, movies, holding hands on the sly. He really thought they were going somewhere. Then, out of nowhere, she dumped him. He begged her to stay, but she was done. She was cold, firm about the breakup, so he finally let it go. He figured it was an amicable split. Now, these rumors pointed straight to her, and he had no idea why. He tried to confront her, clear things up, but she dodged him. Classmates started giving him weird looks. Then the gossip spread to the set of his show, and he got replaced halfway through filming. He was a junior, landing small parts. That show was supposed to be his big break, the one that got him noticed. Of course, he didn't know that then. The rumors messed him up big time. All he wanted was to set the record straight. It's tough to fight a smear campaign solo. After avoiding him for days, Lin Luoxue went home on leave, leaving him defenseless. Rumors fly fast, but the truth crawls. He gathered evidence, but it didn't matter. Nobody wanted to believe him. Even after he put the evidence out there, a lot of people still doubted him, but things eventually calmed down a little. Still, the whole thing seriously messed with him, making his career a tough climb. Luckily, his family had money. His parents, seeing what he was going through, bankrolled a low-budget web series he wanted to do. He had a good eye. The script, director, actors, everything clicked. A year later, the show was a surprise hit. He finally started getting recognition, but then the paparazzi dug up those old rumors and blasted them as dirt, conveniently leaving out the part where he'd cleared his name. Everyone piled on him. He was bummed, but he tried not to let it get to him. He hadn't done anything wrong. He'd told his side of the story. Time would tell. Then Lin Luoxue blew up. She landed a role in a historical drama and became a star. Ever since she ditched him, they'd been estranged. After he cleared his name, he stopped paying attention to what she was doing. The next time he heard about her was in an interview. The reporter asked her about the rumors with him. She looked sad, hesitant, didn't give a straight answer. Her performance made everyone assume the rumors were true. He was branded a cheater, a scumbag. For good. He was furious. But up against her fans, who were convinced they were in the right, his explanations just sounded weak. That interview didn't just make his past efforts look like a joke, it affected his family's business. He never understood why she was doing this to him. They never spoke again. Years later, he was doing a small role and overheard a conversation in a corner. Lin Luoxue, we don't have any beef, so why have you been targeting me? That it was a confused woman's voice. He stopped walking. You're imagining things. Why would I target you? That it was Lin Luoxue. Don't deny it. All my opportunities ended up in your lap. You're pretty slick. The woman's voice was sarcastic. If you know everything, why ask? If you want to blame me, go ahead. I don't care about you. Lin Luoxue changed the subject, sounding contemptuous. There's gotta be a reason. You're not just after me, but your ex, Su Yang, too. What did he ever do to you? You've been holding him back. I heard what you said to Xie the other day. Oh, you care about Su Yang that much. I'm targeting you. So what if I want to keep you down? Figures you two are hooking up. What's that supposed to mean? That the woman sounded confused, and so did the original owner. Whatever. Just don't expect things to go back to how they were. Lin Luoxue said something cryptic and walked towards him. She saw him standing there. Why? He was genuinely baffled. He'd racked his brain for years, trying to figure out what he'd done wrong. No reason. Lin Luoxue glared at him and walked away. He stood there as another woman walked out, Tang Yun. He knew her. They'd gone to the same college. She was beautiful, and they'd worked together. She looked embarrassed and nodded before leaving. After that, the original owner got fewer and fewer roles, and eventually quit acting. He went home to take over the family business, but the family was suddenly targeted, and they went bankrupt. He knew Lin Luoxue was behind it, but she had powerful connections and there was nothing he could do. He watched her become a famous actress, thriving in her career and love life, while he was crushed. The hatred built up inside him. His life was a mess. He'd loved acting, dreamed of being a star, but his breakup with Lin Luoxue ruined everything. After causing his family's downfall, he felt so guilty that he died of depression. After his death, he saw the whole story of what happened in his life, which was basically a rebirth revenge story. Chapter 67, The Cannon Fodder Ex-Boyfriend of the Reborn Heroine in the Entertainment Industry 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What did the original client want? To become a movie star, get revenge on Lin Luoxue and everyone who helped her hold him back, and make Lin Luoxue ordinary and unrecognizable after she's reborn. Got it. Xuanhuan checked the timeline. It was his sophomore year. He and Lin Luoxue were just friends and were currently filming a historical drama together. Thinking about what the original client wanted, Xuanhuan felt a little worried. Getting revenge on Lin Luoxue would be easy, but becoming a movie star? That was a different story. He couldn't even act. Knowing he'd have to perform soon, Xuanhuan quickly sifted through the original client's memories for any acting experience. Luckily, it didn't seem too hard, which put him at ease. After a bit, the director yelled for them to get back to it. Xuanhuan went to his position, instantly switching his expression based on the script in his memory. He played a doting older brother. Thinking about his first life, Xuanhuan was also a doting older brother, always spoiling him. Xuanhuan remembered how tolerant and loving Xuanhuan always looked at him and mirrored that expression when looking at Tang Yun. Being a brother complex must be similar to a sister complex, right? Sure enough, the director didn't yell cut. Xuanhuan waited for Tang Yun to finish her line, keeping the adoring look on his face. When she stumbled, he caught her calmly. They exchanged their lines, and the scene was a wrap. Okay, that's a take. The director announced. Xuanhuan and Tang Yun went back to their normal expressions and walked off. Host, your acting was great, the system praised. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. The original client had a small role in the drama, just a supporting one. He played an ancient nobleman, the doomed older brother of the villainous female character played by Tang Yun. Apart from the doting brother act with Tang Yun, Xuanhuan had no trouble with the rest of the role. The movements and mannerisms came easy since he was mostly being himself. After filming his scene, Xuanhuan was done for the day, but with the original client's dream of movie stardom in mind, he hung around to watch the leads, studying their expressions. Tang Yun, also done for the day, was doing the same. She was a hard worker. If it weren't for Lin Luoxue, she and the original client could have gone far. Xuanhuan glanced at her and then looked away, watching the leads go back and forth, their facial expressions so smooth and natural. Xuanhuan sighed inwardly. He couldn't pull that off. He definitely needed to learn more. Xuanhuan watched for the rest of the afternoon before heading back to the hotel. He found a message from Lin Luoxue. Lin Luoxue, Senior Su, are you done working? Xuanhuan glanced at it but didn't reply. The original client and Lin Luoxue got together because she pursued him. her persistence in contacting him led them to become close and eventually a couple, but it was too soon for Xuanhuan. His mission was to get revenge on Lin Luoxue, but he didn't want anything to do with her. Xuanhuan returned to the hotel, ate, washed up, and since it wasn't too late, asked the system to find some acting tutorials. Halfway through, another message from Lin Luoxue came in. Lin Luoxue, Senior Su, are you still working? I also got a small role recently. The set's near yours. When you have time, could you teach me how to act? Xuanhuan glanced at it and finally replied, Su Yang, I'm very busy and don't have time. Ask the other actors on your set for advice. After sending it, he went back to the acting tutorial on the system screen. Xuanhuan didn't care, but Lin Luoxue stared at the message on her phone, feeling disappointed. She met Su Yang at a party a few months ago. Su Yang was good-looking, well-mannered, had great grades, and supposedly came from a good family. She fell for him instantly. She'd been paying attention to him since, creating chances to see him and finally working up the nerve to ask for his number. She'd always approached him asking for acting advice. He'd even offered to teach her if he had the chance, and he'd been willing to talk to her a few times. Why was he so cold now? Lin Luoxue felt sad. Her roommate noticed her downcast expression and grew curious. Everyone in their dorm knew Lin Luoxue was after an older sophomore and had asked for his number recently, and she'd seemed happy. What was going on? Had she been rejected? Luoxue, what's wrong? Nothing. Seeing her roommate's curiosity, Lin Luoxue quickly smiled. Her roommate teased her, you look like you just got turned down after a confession. No way, I wouldn't confess now. Lin Luoxue blushed. Well, I'm telling you, a girl chasing a boy is easy. Just keep at it, and Senior Su will be yours sooner or later. Yeah. Hearing her roommate's words, Lin Luoxue suddenly felt confident again. Xuanhuan didn't know that Lin Luoxue was determined to win him over. He just kept learning on set. Lin Luoxue went to the set next to Xuanhuan's a few days later and sent him a message, but Xuanhuan ignored it. She tried contacting him several times, and Xuanhuan finally blocked her. Eventually, Lin Luoxue got the message and stopped contacting him. The original client wanted to get revenge on the reborn Lin Luoxue, but the current Lin Luoxue was a simple freshman with few bad intentions. There was no point in going after the current Lin Luoxue. Xuanhuan only paid attention to her occasionally, doing nothing else. Xuanhuan's role was small, and filming wrapped up after a few weeks. When he left, the crew gave him a bonus. Xuanhuan took it and went home. He'd taken a leave of absence to film. Now it was summer vacation. After returning home, Xuanhuan signed up for several study courses. He spent every day learning. The more he did, the more he realized that acting was fun. He was smart and learned quickly. Driven by interest, he achieved twice the results with half the effort, and his acting skills improved dramatically. In the blink of an eye, it was time for school again. Xuanhuan didn't go out to audition. He attended classes seriously and excelled academically. His teacher recommended him to a crew, where he played a supporting role with a decent amount of screen time. Xuanhuan learned a lot from it. Time passed quietly. Before he knew it, a year had passed since Xuanhuan came to this world, and Lin Luoxue was about to be reborn. Host, Lin Luoxue is reborn. Xuanhuan heard the system's reminder during class that day. His expression didn't change. Yeah, I know. Chapter 68, The Canon Fodder Ex-Boyfriend of the Reborn Heroine in the Entertainment Industry 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the same time, back in Lin Luoxue's dorm room, she jolted awake in a cold sweat. The unfamiliar surroundings startled her. She remembered vividly being crushed to death. She'd been desperate and confused as to why this was happening to her, but instead of the afterlife, she found herself back in her university dorm. Luoxue, what's with the daydreaming? Get up already. Lin Luoxue snapped out of it, recognizing the voice of her college roommate. Yuan Xin, *, what is going on, star? Luoxue, you're gonna be late, Yuan Xin said, noticing Lin Luoxue's confusion. Hearing that, Lin Luoxue scrambled out of bed. I'm up. Alright, hurry up and get ready. We'll be in trouble if we're late. Okay. Still bewildered, Lin Luoxue quickly washed up and headed out with Yuan Xian. Walking through the familiar campus, Lin Luoxue was overcome with emotion. Was she really back? She went to class with Yuan Xian in a daze. Back in the dorm later, it still didn't feel real. She grabbed her phone to check the date. Yep, it was definitely college. The memory of her past life hit her hard, a lifetime of obscurity, stuck playing minor roles until her death. It stung, thinking about Su Yang and Tang Yun's lavish wedding. A wave of bitterness washed over her. Right, Su Yang is still my boyfriend right now. That lowlife dumped her after making it big in her past life, abandoning her to struggle while he lived the high life. Not this time. She was going to change everything. A sly smile crept across Lin Luoxue's face. She pulled out her phone, ready to find Su Yang on WeChat and dump the jerk. This time, she'd be the one doing the breaking up, making him realize she didn't need him. Lin Luoxue scrolled through her recent contacts, but after a while, she couldn't find Su Yang. She frowned, confused. What's happening? Back then, she and Su Yang had been close, talking practically every day. So why couldn't she find him now? She just searched his name, and she finally found him, but when she clicked on his profile, the first few messages were marked with red exclamation points. Su Yang had blocked her. That couldn't be right. What was going on? She racked her brain, trying to recall this timeline. Then it hit her, Su Yang had never been her boyfriend in this life. She'd kept hitting him up, and he'd just blocked her. This was totally different. She and Su Yang weren't together. So how could she get revenge? Her original plan was to trash his reputation after breaking up with him, but that was off the table. Why was Su Yang different? Lin Luoxue racked her brain. Could it be that he'd been reborn too? The thought sent a jolt of anger through her. Su Yang had it good in his last life. Why did God give him another chance? And the worst part? He'd decided to stay away from her this time around. Was she that bad? Was she really not as good as Tang Yun? No way. Su Yang was just blind. She was 1,000 times better than Tang Yun, that pretty face. The system had been keeping tabs on Lin Luoxue and, seeing her changing expressions, quickly reported to Shiqing, host, Lin Luoxue might be plotting something nasty. I'll keep an eye on her, but you should watch your back. Shiqing chuckled. Got it. Appreciate the heads up. No problem, that's what I'm here for, hee. The system didn't see it as a burden. It was designed to help its host, and keeping him out of trouble was part of the job. Besides, the host had given it all those task points. It wanted to perform well. After all, they'd become close over the worlds. It was happy to do what it could, knowing that the system had things covered with Lin Luoxue. Shiqing went back to his own stuff. In the original story, Lin Luoxue used the fact that the original owner was her boyfriend to smear his name. Now that they were strangers, who knew what she'd pull? Lin Luoxue probably wouldn't give up on messing with the original owner and Tang Yun. Given how she'd always been trying to one-up the original owner, she'd definitely try it again. Wasn't her advantage knowing what was going to happen? If the future changed, what did she have? Setting aside Lin Luoxue's beef with the original owner and Tang Yun, Shiqing didn't even mind her snagging opportunities. Knowing a show would be a hit and wanting to get in on it. Understandable, but Lin Luoxue had straight up ripped off other people's songs and scripts. That was going too far. He'd already had the system nudge the original authors to create those things ahead of time. If Lin Luoxue tried to plagiarize and publish, she'd be met with hate and lawsuits, not applause. Shiqing had been busy lately. He'd auditioned for a show a few days back and just found out he got the part. He'd be joining the crew in a few days. A few days passed with no sign of Lin Luoxue, so Shiqing headed to set. Once there, he spotted a familiar face, Xuanhuan, Lin Luoxue's admirer from the original story. He was also the guy Tang Yun said Lin Luoxue had used to try to suppress the original owner. The show was a martial arts drama following the male lead. It told the story of how his family was wiped out and he barely escaped. He then wandered the world, searching for the killer. It was a classic hero's journey. Xuanhuan was the main character, and Shichin was playing a companion he met on the road, basically the third lead, because they were filming together. Shichin and Xiaoyingui were around each other a lot. There was a reason Xiaoyingui was an award-winning actor. He was amazing, and he was always nice to the supporting cast, too. One day, Shichin wrapped up his scenes. On the way back, he saw Xiaoyingui talking to a woman. Shichin didn't want to intrude, but as he walked by, he overheard them. "Yingui, I brought you braised pork ribs. Are you happy?" The woman's voice was full of excitement. "Yeah, I'm happy. But next time, don't come all the way here. You've got a baby to think about, so be careful," Xiaoyingui said, his voice tender and concerned. "But I miss you." The woman was clearly flirting. Shichin listened to their conversation and noticed their closeness. Did Xiaoyingui have a kid? But that had never come up in the original story. In the original story, Xiaoyingui had been pursuing Lin Luoxue and hooking her up with resources. He only went public with an actress a few years after Lin Luoxue got married. Fans had always said he was so loyal, but it seemed that wasn't the full story. Shichin watched the woman chat with Xiaoyingui for a while before leaving. After she was gone, Xiaoyingui's expression shifted to one of disgust, a total contrast to the way he'd just been acting. Chapter 69, The Canon Fodder Ex-Boyfriend of the Reborn Heroine in the Entertainment Industry 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He's totally got what it takes to be best actor, Shichin sighed. System, run a check on his relationship with that woman. Got it, host. In the original storyline, the original owner got crushed, and Xiaoyingui was a major player in that. A fellow entertainer could ruin someone's career with just a few choice words. Looks like I've caught him in the act. Shichin waited until Xiaoyingui had left before going back. That evening, the system dug up info on Xiaoyingui, and it turned out the whole no connections, just pure talent story was a lie. He definitely has skill, you don't become best actor without it. But the entertainment industry is full of talented people who never make it. Xiaoyingui's success is largely thanks to his girlfriend. She's the woman Shichin saw earlier. They've been together since college. She comes from a wealthy family and has been using her connections to boost his career since day one. Her protection is what got him where he is today. They haven't gone public with their relationship, but they're solid. Xiaoyingui is really grateful for her help, and now she's pregnant, and they're figuring out how to announce it. Of course, the system found all this out, considering how the original plot played out and the way Xiaoyingui just switched gears. There's probably more to it than meets the eye. Xiaoyingui is on Shichin's revenge list. Hiding a relationship and a pregnancy from fans would be a major scandal, but Shichin decided not to blow it up right away. Xiaoyingui is an actor who's known for his work, not some idol. This wouldn't hurt him that much. He figured he'd save the big guns for later. For the next few days, Shichin watched Xiaoyingui on set, acting like nothing was up, and playing his part as usual. Meanwhile, Lin Luoxue, thanks to her future vision, was at an audition for a web series. Standing outside the room, looking at the panel in front of her, Lin Luoxue felt confident. This little web series was the debut project for a newbie director fresh out of school. Being a newcomer, she had no name and nothing to show off, so naturally she couldn't get investment. She was auditioning for the lead female role. Everyone else trying out was a fresh face too. Lin Luoxue figured that with her acting skills honed over a decade in her past life, landing the part would be a piece of cake. She felt so confident about that. She recalled that the female lead of this show in her previous life was recommended to the director by someone later. Now that she was there, that wouldn't happen, but then, just as Lin Luoxue was brimming with confidence, she spotted the actress. What the heck was going on? Lin Luoxue started to panic. She was a little flustered during her audition. Once inside, Lin Luoxue looked at the judges, introduced herself, and then took a breath to calm down before starting her performance. Her expression shifted in a heartbeat. She dove straight into the role. The director and producer nodded, looking pleased. After her performance, Lin Luoxue relaxed her face and bowed to the panel. I'm done. Okay, we'll be in touch, the director said. All right. Lin Luoxue left with a small smile. She was sure she nailed it. she had seen the satisfied looks on the faces of the director and the others. Even if the actress from her past life was also auditioning, she was still getting the part. Lin Luoxue was so sure of herself. But days passed, and she never got the call. Finally, she found out the female lead had been cast. It was the actress from her past life. Lin Luoxue gritted her teeth, her face twisted with rage. Why? She couldn't understand it. How could her acting skills, perfected over a decade, not measure up to some junior actress? What she didn't know was that while her acting was technically excellent, it felt too forced. The other actress might not have been as skilled, but she perfectly embodied the character. That was one of the reasons the show became such a hit later on. If the other actress hadn't shown up for the audition, like in her previous life, she probably would have gotten the role, but the system had tipped her off, telling her to show up. The system was thrilled to mess with Lin Luoxue's big break. Host, Lin Luoxue didn't get the part. Nice work. Lin Luoxue's first failure sent her spiraling into self-doubt. She'd been so sure of herself, but reality had just slapped her in the face. Was she going to end up just like in her past life? The system didn't know what she was thinking. If it had, it would have told her, yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. Not with her and the host around. She wasn't going to climb over anyone to get to the top this time. Back in the dorm, Xuanhuan had seen Lin Luoxue's confident attitude after the audition and figured she'd nailed it. But now, days later, Lin Luoxue still hadn't heard anything. She stepped forward to comfort her. Luoxue, my crew's still one person short. Want to try out with me? No thanks, Lin Luoxue said coldly. She knew that the crew Xuanhuan was trying to join was huge, but with their status, the best they could hope for was playing a maid. Better to pass. Okay, Xuanhuan said, not pressing the issue. While Lin Luoxue was dealing with setbacks, Xuanhuan was having a smooth ride. All his hard work had really paid off, and his acting was already top-notch. Plus, the character he was playing, a chivalrous knight, made the fight scenes easy for him. The director constantly praised Xuanhuan on set, and he was getting along well with everyone. Before he knew it, it was time for Xuanhuan's final scene. In this scene, Xuanhuan's character, the third lead, and Xie Yingwei's character, the lead, were ambushed by guys in black. They fought for their lives, and finally, Xuanhuan's character died saving the male lead. In the thick bamboo forest, Xuanhuan shielded Xie Yingwei and fought their way out of the ambush. He was stabbed multiple times, covered in blood, and slowly collapsed. Cut. Excellent. The director was thrilled. Here was a college kid who was clearly talented and hardworking. He'd aced the audition and had a solid grasp of the character, but the director had been worried he was too young and would hold things up. Turns out, he was a huge surprise, and held his own against Xie Yingwei. Xuanhuan heard the director and got up, dropping the character's expression. Xie Yingwei, who was playing the guy who got saved, came back and said in a senior actor voice, "Congrats on wrapping up filming. You did great. Keep it up." "I will." "Thank you, teacher," Xuanhuan said, before heading to his assistant. Xuanhuan hadn't signed with an agency yet. Sue's father had assigned him an assistant, a recent college grad. It was summer and scorching hot. Seeing him coming over, the assistant, Xiaoxi, rushed to hand him a water bottle and a towel. Xuanhuan took them, wiped the fake blood off his face, and rinsed his mouth out. Xiaoxi was super impressed that Xuanhuan didn't seem affected at all and wasn't even sweating after filming that fight scene. "Brother Su, are you hot?" "Not really." Xuanhuan went to take off his makeup and change out of his costume. His time with the show was officially over. Chapter 70, The Canon Fodder Ex-Boyfriend of the Reborn Heroine in the Entertainment Industry 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xuanhuan took the red envelope, handed to him personally by the director this time. "Su Yang, good work," the director said with a smile. "Hope we get to work together again sometime." "Sounds good, thanks," Xuanhuan replied. He said goodbye to a few actors and staff who'd been good to him, and then left. 2 months after joining the crew, he was finally headed back to school. As soon as Xuanhuan got back, the system filled him in on Lin Luoxue's recent activities. He'd been too busy filming to keep tabs on her himself, so he'd left it to the system. With the system watching, he wasn't worried about her causing any trouble. Apparently, Lin Luoxue had auditioned for a role that was supposed to be a real breakthrough. But thanks to the system messing with things and the fact that she wasn't a good fit, she lost out. Now she's stuck in a bind. She doesn't qualify for the great roles, but she doesn't want to do small parts, so she's in a panic. Xuanhuan listened to the system's report, noticing the pride in its tone, and gave it some praise, that just motivated the system even more, and it went right back to monitoring Lin Luoxue. A few days later, Xuanhuan got a message from the system. Host, Lin Luoxue looks like she's planning to come find you. Got it. Let her come. Okay, I won't stop her. Good. Lin Luoxue was indeed planning on seeing Xuanhuan. Lately, she'd been hitting brick walls left and right. Nothing was going her way. She knew what should happen in the future, but it didn't seem to matter. She knew which shows would be hits, but she kept bombing her auditions. She knew which investments would pay off big, but she was broke. Now that Xuanhuan was back on campus, Lin Luoxue wanted to see him and figure out what had changed. He'd joined the film crew before she could even get her bearings after being reborn. Now that he was back, she needed to figure out if he'd been reborn too. She'd suspected it before, but if he had been reborn, why wasn't he chasing after Tang Yun? Tang Yun was his wife in his previous life. People said they were close until she died. Could something have gone wrong later on? But if he wasn't reborn like she was, why had he changed? Lin Luoxue's head was spinning. The more she thought, the more frustrated she became. Then it hit her. Both times she'd auditioned, weird things had happened, causing her to fail. Was he behind it? This time, she was going to get to the bottom of it. Lin Luoxue started digging around for Xuanhuan, finally cornering him a few days later. Xuanhuan knew Lin Luoxue was coming. Thanks to the system, she stopped him on campus and said, in a way that suggested familiarity, Xuanhuan, are you back from the future too? Xuanhuan just stared at her, saying nothing. Seeing his silence, Lin Luoxue felt sure of her guess. Anyone else would be surprised and confused, but Xuanhuan was acting like it was no big deal. Something was definitely up with him. She probed, those screw-ups in my auditions, that was you, wasn't it? So what if it was? Xuanhuan admitted without hesitation. He considered the system his proxy. Lin Luoxue exploded, it was you. How did you do it? Why would I tell you? Lin Luoxue was shaking with anger. Xuanhuan, why are you doing this to me? You dumped me after you made it big in the last life. Now you're still trying to mess me up, dumped her. Xuanhuan, confused by her rant, was done with this conversation. He was only willing to meet Lin Luoxue so she could see that Xuanhuan was reborn, too. And that no matter which life, Xuanhuan was doing better than her, and even though she was reborn, her life sucked. She was nowhere near as successful as Xuanhuan. That was the biggest blow he could give her. Seeing Xuanhuan's silence fueled Lin Luoxue's anger. Why was he treating her this way? What had she ever done to him? She conveniently forgot that her first thought after being reborn was to get revenge on Xuanhuan and grind him into the dirt. What did I ever do to you? I just told the media about your affair in the last life. You cleared it up, didn't you? Then you spent the rest of your life holding me back, forcing me into bit parts, keeping me from ever getting ahead. Isn't that enough? Hearing her words, Xuanhuan finally understood why Lin Luoxue had been so determined to take the original owner down after her rebirth. Did she honestly think that the original owner had been secretly sabotaging her career, making her miserable and keeping her invisible? The truth was, the original owner hadn't given her a second thought after they broke up. Her failures were just the result of bad luck, laziness, and a lack of talent. Even though Xuanhuan wasn't the original owner, he wanted to set the record straight. I haven't paid attention to you since we broke up. Why would I be trying to hold you back? How can you say that? If you weren't, why was I so miserable? Believe whatever you want. You can't wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. Xuanhuan didn't think Lin Luoxue had really considered the issue. They'd dated for years. Didn't she know what kind of person he was? The original owner wasn't a saint, but he wasn't petty enough to ruin her career over something like that. Deep down, she probably thought he was out for revenge, justifying her own failures by blaming him. I don't believe it, Lin Luoxue said. Then why are you trying to mess with me now? Mess with you? Those roles went to other people because you weren't good enough. It's called fair competition. It's got nothing to do with me. Hearing Su Yang's cold words, Lin Luoxue couldn't come up with a reply. She just spat out, fine, you just wait, Su Yang. I will be on top in this life. Sure, I'll wait, Shi Qing said, and walked away. Lin Luoxue stood there, watching him go, and vowed to become wildly successful. Then, she would crush Su Yang and drag him through the mud. Shi Qing had no idea what she was thinking. If he did, he'd just laugh. Lin Luoxue's success in the original timeline was based on her seizing opportunities from others, plagiarizing other people's work, and building a reputation as a talented woman to attract followers. She couldn't get away with that again. Lin Luoxue didn't realize that Shi Qing had blocked all her advantages from being reborn. She was still focused on taking shortcuts and finding the fastest way to stardom. She never considered working hard and taking things one step at a time.